Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I was asked by Al to do something on the future of aviation technology, and I guess the temptation then is to go and start talking about all the fancy equipment that you can buy and put on board your aircraft. But I really wanted to do something a little bit different, so I've come up with the ABC of the future of business aviation. And it seems to me that, you know, in these increasingly maturing competitive markets that we're enjoying and working in and taking on challenges, then you end up with these other challenges, which is how to differentiate and how to innovate so that you can gain something or have a marginal advantage over your competitors or other people that are coming into the industry. So the three I think most important technologies that are affecting us at the moment are A, for artificial intelligence. You'll have heard that bandied around quite frequently. It's an interesting topic once you start investigating it. I didn't know that much about it. I thought I knew something about it from what's in the press and just get some AI. That's the sort of thing that happens. The second one is biometrics, and the third one is connectivity. So a little bit of optimism I wanted to also introduce into the room, because I think there's always a little bit of fear about things that are going on. Some of you may have read a book called Abundance by Peter Diamandis, and he said, "We will solve a lot of the world's biggest problems simultaneously. It's right that we face many complex problems today, but looking at them individually is a mistake." So some of the concerns that we have will actually be solved rapidly and will affect us before we could have even thought about them if we don't anticipate them. And that's why I think that this ABC is important to look at these areas. To kind of counter some of other things that I know Al's team with the Revolution do with the unmanned, they're very keen on the unmanned aerial vehicles thing. I look at that and I sort of wonder if you can solve that very difficult problem and create unmanned aerial vehicles running around the skies, then maybe you could solve congestion and you wouldn't need unmanned aerial vehicles, so then you've got a different problem. So it's very, you know, these things as they come in, we come to terms with new technologies. If you look back 100 years as well, you'll see Taylorism and scientific industrial change, and they were doing a lot of analysis of data just like they're doing now. And it's the same language that's was used then in Taylorism in the 1920s. Okay, so I want to sort of say how does all this affect our industry of business aviation? Okay, I was on Eurostar a few months ago, going to Brussels, and they had this little robot thing called Pepper. And I just found myself looking at this thing. It's in a little cage. It's a bit like a zoo animal. It's not like the one on the left where the child is interacting with it. It's just sitting there like this. And as you walk past it, it goes and looks at you. And I felt a little bit guilty about going and just ignoring it. You know, how do we interact with these technologies? That's not necessarily an artificial intelligence. It might have some artificial intelligence parts to it, but it's not necessarily true, you know, AI in the way. But it's kind of it's trying to be a bit human and robotic, but it affects you. How many people like using Siri? How many people like using Alexa? Some people really like it, some people literally use it just for one thing, like play this music list or something like that. Okay, so looking at artificial intelligence in a little bit more detail, I think that the areas of interest that sort of pop up for aviation are in semi-autonomous or autonomous control systems. So that does go to operating of aircraft and air traffic management systems, and how you can use artificial intelligence, or machine learning as it's also known, to help with decision making. So have a think about how those systems are going to affect you. The AI is typically divided into sort of three types of systems. There's the analytical, the human-inspired and humanized artificial intelligence. So when you get onto that the humanized artificial intelligence is truly sort of self-conscious and self-aware, and it's not really there yet. So that's the sort of future of where they think things may go. Skynet has become self-conscious. That kind of fear that people maybe have from the Terminator movies. What will happen then, you know? Will it just immediately realise that it's not worth it and just shut itself down? I don't know. We'll see. But mostly it's just to do with helping to program and work out logical decisions. So you still need a human element. If you use machine learning to do things, then you need to be able to describe what it is that you're trying to extract from the data and put that into requirements that can then be learned. You then need humans in the system still to take a look at the biases that might otherwise creep in. So a lot of the system design is still with humans who have to find the right points of leverage. And I think that's the thing when you might have a board meeting at your company and someone says, hey, we should get some like AI involved in this. You've really got to be like, what are we actually trying to achieve here? Can we define this properly? Because otherwise AI can't do it. It needs to have a kind of a mission and a goal. Is it really intelligence yet? That's a bit of the debate as well. So it's about machine learning. It's still logical. It's not quite maybe as advanced as you might be led to believe by some aspects. We've given it names like Allison, Watson. You'll have heard of those ones, and that sort of leads you to humanize it a bit, but it's still not a human intelligence system. So that part of AI problem definition, if you can conceive of it, define the problem properly, then maybe you can attack it with an artificial intelligence solution. But otherwise, you might just be looking at the wrong problem. So I'd ask you to think, as a question for this audience, is what is the problem you are trying to solve? If it's big and it involves a lot of data that's available to you and you can describe it, then maybe an AI approach can help. And you probably need to buy it in from somewhere. Okay, so next topic is biometrics. I think this is pretty interesting. Most of us will have been through some sort of biometric scanner. Just coming into Singapore, they take your fingerprints. They've got gates that you can just pass through. They're starting to do My Face is My Passport, where you register and you then you will not be checked after that. The system is going to recognize you, allow you through the airport, and be able to tell other systems, where you are, whether you're going to make the flight. So this sounds like it's affecting airport terminals a lot, which is mass transit areas. But I think that where we've got an opportunity in business aviation is that I think our customers would like to have seamless travel through invisible borders as well. They can, with the correct application of training, negotiations with the various border authorities, the fact that many of our customers are known, fairly high profile, one way or another, those people could be benefiting from being processed through FBOs in a much more seamless way than currently happens, and using technology to take advantage there. So I think that there's a real possibility here. It's for relatively cheap. It's camera technology that's doing background recognition. So just maybe thinking about that from the FBO point of view. We all remember Minority Report. You probably remember Minority Report more for the Tom Cruise movie for the fact that it had all the facial recognition going on, the adverts popping up in front of his face, than it was about the pre-crime unit that was investigating murders that were about to take place. So meeting the challenge of keeping pace with consumer tech adoption, that's where I think with the taking advantage of other technologies that are out there and considering how we can place them into the business aviation environment, which whilst unique, has many of the same issues to resolve. So that would be my question for the audience at this point, is like, how can business aviation better integrate towards this? How do we improve the passenger experience effectively? Okay, the third, the C, this is about connectivity. I think that it's very interesting what's going on in connectivity in terms of what's happening on the ground and what the potential is in the pretty near future, within the next 3 or 4 years, in the air as well, with the launch. They're currently launching the near-Earth orbiting satellite systems like OneWeb. There's also a competitive alternative from Elon Musk. These are offering a vision of internet everywhere for mobile phone devices. They're based on a sort of 650 small satellites at a 1,200 kilometer orbit and offering speeds of up to 500 megabits per second. Okay, if you remember dial-up when you first started, that was 20 years ago, that was under 500 kilobits a second, so an order of magnitude of 1,000 times as much. And this opens the whole, these things, this as a satellite is also going to be enabled on aircraft as they add, they're able to build smaller form fit antenna that are cheaper to put on board, and they'll be available on more and more aircraft. This means that we will have a much more connected ecosystem in the future, and also on the ground, you're going to have the whole 5G experience going on as well, which technically can do 1 to 20 gigabits per second. Realistically, it's probably still more back down, on a day-to-day basis for most of us, it'll be back down in the 500 megabits per second. It also has problems with going through walls, and it doesn't necessarily work inside and outside, inside of buildings. You'd have to bring it into a building from an external antenna and stuff like that. But in the next 10 years as well, you're then looking at 6G. And I think that the impact there is going to be, with all of this, is that all of our own expectations are going to completely change. I mean, they're already changed. We're all very connected at the moment. And that's going to increase, and we're going to fill those pipes. And we're going to be looking for new technologies to take advantage. If we build these networks, which are essentially more bandwidth, we will fill them with something. Some of that will be a better, more effective experience, whether it's streaming media more effectively. Some of it will just be more junk. But think about it from the point of view of your operation and how you might take advantage of a fully connected ecosystem. And what will that benefit have for your passenger experience and the wider airspace management system? Can you squeeze out an advantage from understanding and taking advantage of that technology early? Understand it, take advantage of it early. So this is our sort of vision of the Collins Aerospace or connected ecosystem. So this covers all the different aspects that we right now consider that we are affecting it on board the aircraft, on the ground with the ground networks, and in the air-to-ground environment. Now, each of these segments are kind of moving towards the edge. If you sort of imagine that the edge of this ecosystem is, we're expanding towards the edge of that. But at the same time, there are other ecosystems, connected ecosystems and technologies like the artificial intelligence and the biometrics that are also expanding in their capabilities. And those are going to impinge and connect to each other probably a little bit more rapidly than we expect, but maybe not as rapidly as some people might lead you to believe. But this is all happening. And then at the other side of it, we see sort of the proliferation of onboard equipment like the iPad. It may be used as an EFB or a paperless environment on board an aircraft. But really, what what pilots probably want is they want the nice cockpit that was ergonomically designed to display information to them to actually work without the need to carry on that iPad. So these things are going to change as well. Okay, so, is this an opportunity or is it a threat? Well, I thought this was an interesting statement I read in an article from a hotel customer service agent, and the article sort of explains how there was one hotel agent who had a queue of people who was rigorously following the processes, and there was the other one who was more concerned about the customer experience. They just had a much better experience. And she said to him, "That is the challenge today with people's understanding of technology. Humans are meant to be valued, while technology is meant to be used to meet human goals. Unfortunately, people are valuing technology and processes while using humans to meet technology targets. Processes and analytics exist to complement human touch and judgment, not to replace them." And I can't think of another industry that places such a high value on the customer relationship and the excellent experience that you want them to have. So whilst it's great to have all this technology, remember what it's there to do. It's there to enhance our lives, not enhance its lives. Machines just don't care. Okay, you can make them look like they care at the moment. You can probably just about get the Turing test past some of us, where you can't tell whether you're talking with a real person or it's a chat bot for a certain period of time, at least with the conversation. But in the end, they don't care. People care about people, and that's, I think, more important. Make use of the technology, take your advantages from it, but remember, people matter most. Okay, and to just sort of finish off, there's no such thing as bad weather. It's just a bad choice of clothes. So think about how you're going to dress yourself with the technology that's going to help you to get through whatever environment and challenges that you have to face in your business. And just if you're interested, if any of this is sort of futurology, if you like, has perked your interest, and it's forecasting. Who knows what's going to happen? You can look a little bit ahead, but there's some really good stuff out there. The 311 Starburst by Matthew Griffin is a great website that's got literally all of the technologies that are currently working towards their own edges, and it shows where the progress, whether it's your phone diagnosing you for some kind of a disease just by looking in your camera in your eye, or whether it's other manufacturing technologies. It's got all of them. Ben Evans, he does some great stuff on AI adoption, and you can also maybe have a little bit of the antidote to fake news, which is take a look at proper facts and analysis, reading Abundance or Factfulness by Hans Rosling. Okay, that's me done.